the illusion of assumptions and the power of connection in the whirlwind of our daily lives. Assumptions and judgments shape nearly every interaction we have, whether we're engaging with others or reflecting on ourselves. These mental shortcuts often guide our thoughts and actions. It's easy to assume we understand someone's behavior based on a few actions or words. Likewise, we judge ourselves based on our past choices, our fears of the future, or the constant comparison to others. What if, instead of assuming and labeling, we allowed ourselves to meet others and ourselves without any preconceived notions? In the words of Rumi, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. This line from the Persian poet and philosopher Rumi offers a profound invitation to step away from our assumptions and judgments, to look beyond the assumptions we've made about our own worth and abilities. But it is a necessary step in our journey toward authentic connection. Reflect on why you're holding onto that judgment and ask yourself if it is truly necessary. What would it feel like to let go of it, even for a moment, and experience the world as it is, without labels or expectations? In doing so, you may discover a deeper connection with others and a more authentic, loving relationship with yourself. It's about peeling away the layers of societal conditioning, personal insecurity, and fear, and finding the truth beneath them. In this space, we can experience the true beauty of connection, and in doing so, uncover a love for life that transcends the limitations we've placed upon it. When we let go of our judgments, we allow ourselves to experience life fully, embracing the richness of every moment and every person we meet, to see ourselves as we truly are, not as the sum of our mistakes, fears, or past actions, but as beings capable of profound growth, connection, and love. In this space, we can cultivate compassion for ourselves and others. We can choose to embrace the world without judgment, and in doing so, experience the beauty of life in its raw, unfiltered form. The field Rumi speaks of represents a place of pure connection, free from the limitations of dualistic thinking. In this field, right and wrong no longer matter. Only the shared experience of being alive remains. These judgments, however, are often rooted in fear and insecurity. In this moment, there's no need for division or explanation. Our assumptions about who we are, our judgments about our worth or shortcomings, often cloud our ability to connect with the deepest parts of ourselves. When we hold on to these assumptions, we fail to see ourselves clearly. We mistake our actions or mistakes for our identity, and in doing so, we create a false version of ourselves that we struggle to love. But when we let go of judgment, when we move past the labels we've placed on ourselves, we open up the possibility for genuine self-love and acceptance. We are simply present with each other, beyond the constraints of judgment. This is a state where true connection thrives, a place where we can experience life with open hearts and minds, free from the distractions of our assumptions. Fear that we may not be good enough, fear that others may not accept us, fear that we might fail. And while judgment might feel like a safety net, it actually prevents us from diving deeper into the truth of our own existence and that of others. It prevents us from seeing the world as it truly is, rich, complex, and interconnected. We assume we know what people mean, how they feel, or what their intentions are. Assumptions are like barriers, walls that prevent us from engaging with people and life on a deeper level. They limit our ability to connect authentically, both with others and with ourselves. When we assume we understand someone's behavior without really listening to their story, we close the door to empathy. When we judge ourselves harshly, we create an emotional distance that makes it harder to grow. It's as though we're living in a world of separation, unable to experience the true essence of connection because we are too caught up in the noise of assumptions. We judge ourselves constantly, comparing our progress to others, scrutinizing our mistakes or measuring our worth against external standards. These assumptions and judgments create an invisible web that subtly traps us, preventing us from fully experiencing life in its richness. But the truth is, most of these judgments are unnecessary. They are products of our conditioned minds, born from societal norms, past experiences, and fleeting emotions. And often, they do more harm than good. We all have the tendency to judge, to quickly categorize, and label what we encounter. The consequences of living in a world of assumptions are profound. But what if we could see beyond the veil of judgment? When Rumi says, "When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about." He's describing a state of deep connection where words and labels fall away. The invitation to meet in this field is not just for others, it's for ourselves as well. It is in this spirit of openness that Rumi's teachings call us to reflect. Letting go of assumptions is not easy, as it requires us to confront the very things we hold dear, our beliefs, our judgments, and our perceived truths. So, the next time you catch yourself making an assumption, whether about someone else or about yourself, pause for a moment. Rumi's call is clear. Let go of your assumptions and meet others, and yourself in the field where judgment doesn't exist. Embracing the freedom beyond assumptions, the journey beyond assumptions is not merely an intellectual exercise or a shift in perspective. It is an invitation to live a life of liberation. Assumptions, by their very nature, restrict us. Life is fluid, unpredictable, and filled with surprises. What if we could embrace each moment as it unfolds, without trying to fit it into the confines of our past experiences or our fears of the future? This freedom, which comes from shedding our assumptions, is not about abandoning our wisdom or intuition. What assumptions have you made about them? How has this judgment influenced your relationship with them? Now, imagine releasing that judgment. We often judge ourselves harshly, based on unrealistic expectations or societal standards. These judgments often cause us to hide our true selves. We create masks and personas to protect ourselves from perceived criticism. But in truth, the more we hide behind these masks, the less we are able to truly connect with ourselves and others. But it does mean that we approach these decisions with an open heart, free from the constraints of judgment. When we step beyond assumptions, we step into a world of infinite possibilities. We stop seeing ourselves and others through the lens of judgment, and we begin to experience the beauty of life in its purest form. A life where we are fully present, open to others, and open to ourselves. A life where love, compassion, and understanding flow freely, unimpeded by the limitations of assumption. We make choices based on love, not fear. We choose to connect, not to separate. Self-love and self-acceptance are born from a deep understanding that we are not defined by our mistakes, flaws, or perceived weaknesses. Instead, we are defined by our ability to grow, to evolve, and to love, both ourselves and others. Imagine stepping into the space where you see that person not as someone defined by a single story, but as a complex, ever-evolving being who is just as worthy of love and understanding as you are. The beauty of this shift is that it doesn't only transform how you see others, but it also transforms how you see yourself. It's about recognizing that the world is bigger than any one viewpoint, and that our understanding is always evolving. When we approach life with this mindset, we give ourselves permission to be open to whatever arises. In order to transcend assumptions, we must first cultivate the ability to look inward. We cannot change what we don't see, and we cannot let go of judgments that we do not recognize. Through introspection, we begin to understand our own patterns of judgment and assumption. We begin to see where we have placed limits on ourselves and on others. This self-awareness opens up the possibility for transformation. It allows us to release the judgments that no longer serve us and to step into a new way of being, one that is open, free, and filled with love. We let go of the need to control or predict, and instead, we become active participants in the unfolding of each moment. Compassion, in its purest form, is the antidote to judgment. It is the ability to see and honor the humanity in everyone we meet, without the filters of assumption. When we practice compassion, we open ourselves to connection. We recognize that everyone is on their own journey, carrying their own burdens, facing their own challenges. Instead of judging them for their actions or their differences, we choose to approach them with understanding and empathy. When we approach life through the lens of assumption, we miss the richness that comes with openness and curiosity. We fail to recognize the beauty in the unknown, the mystery in the unfamiliar, and the potential for growth that lies in every new encounter. They confine us within self-imposed boundaries, dictating how we see the world, how we interpret others' actions, and how we define our own identity. The moment we assume we know the outcome, we close ourselves off to new experiences. This is where the real danger lies. We stop seeing things as they are, and instead see them through the lens of our preconceived ideas. Yet, the reality is much more complex, more nuanced than any assumption can capture. Imagine the freedom of a life where we do and feel compelled to immediately label or judge what we encounter. Living without assumptions also means letting go of the need to judge others. In our daily lives, it is easy to fall into the trap of comparison, to judge people based on their actions, their success, or their outward appearance. we often view others through a lens of competition for limited resources, whether that's love, success, or recognition. But Rumi's wisdom teaches us that true connection is not born from judgment or comparison. Instead, it arises from seeing others in their full humanity, without reducing them to a role or category. Take a moment to think about someone in your life that you have judged, either positively or negatively. The same holds true for the judgments we place on ourselves. One of the most profound aspects of Rumi's teachings is his belief in the importance of self-awareness and at the core of this transformation is a deep commitment to living with compassion for ourselves and for others. This does not mean we abandon our discernment or the ability to make decisions about the people and situations in our lives. In this way, Rumi's teachings invite us to live more fully, to love more deeply, and to connect more meaningfully. Awakening to the self, the path of reflection and moderation. When we wake, the world often feels like it's rushing in, demands, thoughts, distractions. From the moment our eyes open, we are confronted with a flood of external stimuli. We live in a world that constantly pulls our attention outward, toward external demands, expectations, and comparisons. But to truly know ourselves, to understand who we are beyond the roles we play or the labels we carry, we must turn inward. We must listen to the secrets that are quietly calling to us from within, waiting to be heard. This can be done in many ways, through journaling, meditation, prayer, or simply sitting in stillness. To truly cultivate self in our modern world, we are constantly bombarded with distractions, temptations, and external pressures that pull us away from ourselves. We live in a culture that values instant gratification, constant stimulation, and material accumulation. We must learn to moderate the thoughts and judgments we have about ourselves. In our fast-paced world, we often expect instant results, instant gratification, and quick fixes. But growth is a slow, steady process. Learning to love ourselves truly and deeply requires time. It requires patience with the journey, with the ups and downs, and with the times when we feel like we've lost our way. When we practice moderation in our expectations and patience in our process, we allow ourselves to unfold naturally, without forcing or rushing. This process isn't about looking at ourselves through a lens of perfection or fault-finding, but about being aware of the layers that form our identity, the beliefs, fears, and desires that influence how we navigate life. So often, we are our own harshest critics, judging ourselves for every mistake, every shortcoming, every imperfection. Instead of avoiding discomfort, we must be willing to lean into it, allowing ourselves to feel what is happening within us. In addition to moderating our external habits and behaviors, we must learn to moderate our inner world, particularly our thoughts. In the rush of daily life, our minds can become cluttered with constant chatter, comparisons, and judgments. We create space to think more clearly, to focus on what truly matters, and to act with intention. This allows us to approach life with greater clarity, purpose, and peace. We begin to see that our thoughts don't define us. They are simply passing clouds in the sky of our consciousness. By learning to let go of the ones that no longer serve us, we create more room for the ones that uplift us. We can become overwhelmed by the pressure to succeed, to be perfect, to live up to expectations. This process of emotional acceptance helps us become more attuned to our needs, our boundaries. It is about creating a mental space where we can observe our thoughts without getting swept away by them. This doesn't mean suppressing our thoughts or forcing ourselves to think only positive things. Rather, it's about recognizing when our thoughts are spinning out of control, when they are being driven by fear or insecurity, and choosing not to give them power. Through mindfulness practices like meditation or simply taking moments throughout the day to check in with ourselves, we can train our minds to return to a state of calm and balance, and our desires, and it creates space for us to respond more mindfully rather than react impulsively. It requires an active willingness to confront the truths within us, even when they are Our emotional responses are often the most immediate indicators of where we need growth or healing. Yet, in our fast-paced, distraction-filled world, it's easy to ignore or suppress emotions that are difficult or But Rumi teaches us that our emotions are not to be feared or dismissed. They are part of the path toward deeper understanding. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you, he writes. The emotions we experience, whether joy, sadness, anger, or fear, are the whispers of the soul, guiding us toward what we need to learn. Sometimes, we may uncover parts of ourselves that we've long avoided, old wounds, insecurities, or fears that we've tried to bury. But in these moments, It's important to remember that self-awareness is a tool for healing, not for self. It is an invitation to see ourselves clearly, so that we can begin to make more conscious choices about who we are and who we want to become. These practices allow us to shed the layers of external influence and reconnect with who we truly are. As Rumi reminds us, the breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. The journey of awakening is ongoing, a continual process of reflection, discovery, and balance. By waking up to ourselves each day, we begin to live in harmony with our inner truth, allowing self-love and peace to guide us forward. But true self-love is about embracing all parts of ourselves, the good, the bad, and everything in between. When we practice moderation in our self-judgment, we allow ourselves to be human. And moderation are not merely intellectual exercises. They are practices that require deep engagement with our daily lives. They are not things we can simply reflect on once and move on from, but are ongoing habits that shape how we interact with the world and, more importantly, how we interact with ourselves. We recognize that mistakes are part of growth, that imperfections are a natural part of the human experience, and that we are worthy of love and compassion just as we are. We are told that happiness lies in having more things, more experiences, more validation. But Rumi teaches us a different way. Moderation is a practice of balance. It is in these quiet moments that we can begin to peel away the layers of self-doubt and self-criticism, revealing the person we were always meant to be. In this process of self-inquiry, we learn to embrace our strengths and our vulnerabilities, our joys and our struggles, without judgment or shame. In these first moments, there is a natural temptation to go back to sleep, to retreat into the comfort of the familiar, to avoid facing the reality of the day and the truths within ourselves. It asks us to resist the urge to dive back into old habits and patterns, and instead to create space for reflection. It is about recognizing that true fulfillment does not come from external possessions or fleeting pleasures, but from a deep connection to our inner selves. It means setting aside time each day for self-care, whether that's a moment of stillness, a walk in nature, or time spent engaging in a hobby that brings us joy. It also means resisting the urge to overindulge in things that provide temporary pleasure, but ultimately leave us feeling empty. Whether that's excessive consumption of food, media, or material goods. When we make the conscious decision to live in moderation, we free ourselves from the cycle of constant wanting and striving. We begin to experience the world with a sense of calm and clarity, free from the noise and distractions that often obscure our true desires. When we practice moderation, we resist the constant pull of distractions and temptations. We learn to say no to the things that do not serve us, and yes, to the things that nourish our bodies, minds, and souls. We cannot truly love ourselves if we do not understand ourselves. But self-reflection is not simply about looking at ourselves through a critical lens. It is about creating space for compassion and curiosity. To reflect is to ask the important questions. Who am I? What do I truly want? What parts of me have I ignored or suppressed? These questions are not meant to bring shame or guilt. Rather, they are an invitation to explore who we are at our core, beneath the surface of daily life and societal expectations. Rumi's metaphor of the breeze at dawn reminds us that there is something subtle yet profound in these early moments of stillness. The secrets the breeze carries are the truths of our inner selves, the parts of us that yearn to be discovered, understood, and embraced. But if we choose to go back to sleep, if we allow ourselves to be consumed by the world around us, we miss these messages. But Rumi offers us a powerful reminder. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. This is not just about the literal act of waking up. It is an invitation to awaken to ourselves, to our inner truths, to the parts of us that are often hidden under layers of distraction and self-doubt. To wake up in this way requires effort. It demands that we consciously step away from the noise and distractions of the world. The first step towards self-love and self-awareness, then, is the practice of reflection. To get to know ourselves is a continuous process. We must create time in our lives to pause, to step back, and to reflect. Self-awareness, however, is not enough on its own. Moderation is not about deprivation or denial. It is about creating a balanced relationship with the world around us. The practice of moderation begins with a conscious choice to prioritize what truly matters. In addition to creating balance in our external lives, moderation also applies to our internal world. Moderation also means practicing patience with ourselves and with others. Through self-reflection and the practice of moderation, we create the space for true self-love to flourish. deepening the practice of self-awareness and moderation. As we continue on this journey of awakening to ourselves, it's important to understand that self-awareness is a muscle that must be consistently exercised. It requires us to examine our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in an honest and compassionate way. To deepen self-awareness, we must first understand that it is not a passive process. This deeper level of self-awareness also involves being present with our emotions. To deepen our self-awareness, we must learn to sit with our emotions without judgment. Moderation, as Rumi reminds us, is not just about balance in the external world, but balance within ourselves. The practice of moderation in our thoughts involves learning to quiet this inner noise. By moderating our thoughts, we free ourselves from the tyranny of Embracing the journey of self-forgiveness and compassion is not simply a destination, but an ongoing journey that requires patience, understanding, and willingness to heal and grow. One of the most transformative practices on this journey is self-forgiveness. This process can be difficult, as it often demands that we face parts of ourselves that we would rather ignore. Our failures, regrets, but as Rumi wisely said, love is an endless act of forgiveness. Forgiveness is an endless act of love. Self-forgiveness is not an act. We often carry the weight of past mistakes longer than necessary. In this act of vulnerability, we let go of the shame and guilt that have held us captive, and we open ourselves to the possibility of healing. This process, while difficult, is liberating. It gives us permission to be imperfect, to make mistakes, and to still be worthy of love. We stop running from our discomfort, our emotions, and our mistakes, and we begin to approach them with kindness and curiosity. Instead of criticizing ourselves for our shortcomings, we acknowledge them with understanding. In our quest for self-improvement and growth, it can be easy to fall into the trap of being overly critical or demanding of ourselves. We stop defining ourselves by our mistakes, our fears, or our perceived inadequacies. Instead, we begin to see ourselves as whole, worthy, and deserving of love. Not because we are perfect, but because we are human. We are beings capable of growth, change, and transformation, and we are deserving of the same love and kindness that we offer to others. We may push ourselves to be more, to do more, to constantly improve. However, true self-love involves treating ourselves with gentleness. It means recognizing that we are not machines, but human beings with limitations, emotions, and needs. But merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Self-forgiveness and compassion help us break down the walls we have built around our hearts. They allow us to embrace ourselves fully, with all our flaws and imperfections. And it is through this acceptance and love that we are able to experience the world with an open heart, free from the weight of past mistakes, and we are worthy of rest, of joy, and of time to recharge. Ghent, we allow ourselves to feel pain without shame, knowing that it is part of the human experience. Compassion allows us to hold ourselves with tenderness in our moments of vulnerability, helping us. Each time we forgive ourselves, we release another layer of guilt or shame. Each time we show ourselves compassion, we deepen our connection to our true selves. And through this practice, we come to know that self-love is not a destination, but a path. A path that leads us to greater peace, acceptance, and joy. Self-forgiveness is, in essence, the permission we give these mistakes, whether moments of failure, hurtful words spoken, or paths not taken, tend to define how we view ourselves. It is about recognizing our own suffering and treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a dear friend. Compassion is not about excusing harmful behavior or ignoring the need for change. In our fast-paced world, there is a constant pressure to succeed, to do more, and to be perfect. This pressure can lead us to believe that we must constantly perform, constantly strive, and never allow ourselves to fail. But true self-love is about acknowledging that growth takes time. It is about recognizing that we are always evolving, and that mistakes are part of the learning process. Patience is about allowing ourselves the tea. Instead, it is about meeting ourselves with understanding, gentleness, and patience, even when we fall short of ... The key is not to let those mistakes dictate our value or worth. This act of releasing guilt is empowering, as it allows us to embrace our imperfections, knowing they are part of our growth. Just as a tree sheds dead leaves, we must let go of emotional burdens no longer needed. Only then can we allow ourselves to bloom again, stronger and more capable. We replay these moments, allowing them to shape our identity. This can be painful, as we may have been conditioned to believe we must be perfect to deserve love and acceptance. But true self-love is not rooted in perfection. It is rooted in acceptance. When we forgive ourselves, we create space to learn from our past, understand why we acted as we did, and grow into a better version of ourselves. To truly love ourselves, we must free ourselves from the chains of past guilt. Self-forgiveness is the act of letting go of the negative emotions tied to our mistakes, recognizing they do not define us, and realizing we are worthy of healing and growth. Self-forgiveness is also an expression of grace for ourselves and others. It invites us to accept that we are human, and being human means making mistakes. But forgiving ourselves is not always easy. It often involves confronting uncomfortable truths about who we are and what we have done. At the core of self-forgiveness is vulnerability. It requires admitting that we are not perfect, that we have made mistakes, and that we are willing to learn and improve. Self-forgiveness is also intertwined with self-compassion. Compassion is the ability to care for and nurture ourselves, especially in moments of difficulty or distress. When we practice self-compassion, we learn to be present with our pain, without judgment. Self-compassion also teaches us patience, with ourselves and with others. Another crucial aspect of self-compassion is the practice of gentleness. As we practice self-forgiveness and compassion, we begin to see ourselves in a new light. This journey of self-forgiveness and compassion is ongoing. It is not something we achieve once and for all, but a continual practice that we return to time and again. As we walk this path, Rumi's wisdom continues to guide us. Your task is not to seek for love,